Hi, Thomas, and today I'd like to explain to you quickly the formula for riches or the formula for wealth creation and why I did my PhD. My PhD was an interdisciplinary study, so I did not specialize in a specific field. And the reason for that is there's a lot of wisdom from the philosophers out there from ancient times, right? There's a lot of psychology, there's a lot of science, there's a lot of economics that goes into helping people in order to become financially free. So why on earth do we need to develop entrepreneurs and investors not only in South Africa but around the world? Well, if I look at the situation, the problem that we've got is that according to global rich or global wealth, we're going to find that 99.76% of the total population will not have a decent standard of living. In today's value here in South Africa, it's 25,000 Rand per month, indexed with inflation over their life expectancy. So we've got a massive, massive problem. And the reason for that is, that's the reason why I did the PhD, to give, first of all, to identify the problem, and then secondly, to give a solution. So we start with, and I started with, and by the way, the reason why is the formula for wealth creation instead of the formula for riches is my promoter said to me, honest, this thing, the academics, the moment that you start with the formula for riches and stuff like that, they're not going to place a lot of value on it. And well, that's the reason why I changed it to the formula for wealth creation, to develop successful entrepreneurs and investors. Okay, but it's the formula for riches, right? So just so that you know. I started off by first identifying the problem. And the problem that we've got is it's got nothing to do with the techniques or the outcome or how to get an investment growth rate that is higher than our financial freedom growth rate. That's the easy part. What's the most difficult part? The most difficult part is this part, this mental skills that we've got. In other words, we do not believe that we can do it simply because we were and are conditioned by outside forces to believe that we cannot do it. And the reason why they do it, because if we understand how simple it really is, they've got no job. And if they haven't got a job, there's no industry. And then the people that is really making the money, the entities that is really making the money, hasn't got justification for adding value to us. Because at the moment we think they add value to us, which is a lot of bullshit, because they add absolutely no value. They keep us poor deliberately. That is just my point, of course. So in the first chapter, I started identifying the reasons why people are staying poor and the common financial mistakes, and what I've picked up and why that is such an incredible problem, and why is it that people are confused, and what's the cause of the confusion. And then, of course, I went into the formula for riches, or what's the wealth creators formula. I then dissect this formula in order to understand it. And then the chapter 4 is the application of the formula for the riches, the formula for wealth creation. And what I did was to actually take each and every investment, every single investment out there that the conventional people were teaching, and say, okay, this is how it works, this is the tax implication, this is the financial freedom application of it, this is what's going to happen, and here's the reason why it's not working. So the moment that you take the formula and you apply it to a specific asset type or asset base, you're going to find that suddenly very, very few of the so-called investments adhere to the formula for riches. As an example, of course, we need to understand risk, because everything is in the risk. And by now, if you followed me for some time, you'll know that the first thing that we need to do as wealth creators is to mitigate the risk down. So we don't want to take a risk. This thing that we've learned, that the higher the risk, the higher the growth, and this is what I've done and proved in my PhD, is that that is nonsense. This is what they want you to believe. But in real life, if you want to become a wealth creator, that is simply not the truth. So you have to let go of that, because there's no financial risk that we'll ever need to take. So if you start a business with no money, there's no financial risk. If you start investment with there's no risk. If you start your estate with zero, nothing, and you build up an estate that is worth millions, then there's no risk, especially if you do it in the right entity, because then no one has got access to it and you don't use that as security. So it's complete 100%, 180 degrees to the opposite to what we've been taught. And I believe that this is going to be in 5-10 years from now, and it's going to be, or 20 years or a generation from now, that this is going to be the norm, because over the last, well, 10 years, 12 years that I've done my PhD, I can already see a shift. Okay, so we need to identify, first of all, the risk in terms of the paper assets, and then I actually went into each and every paper asset that you can imagine, right? And like annuities and endowments, and the estate duty and sinking funds, and preferred compensation and deferred compensation, and boring stuff. But luckily I had that background from being a certified financial planner. Okay, so the end result of this is that there's only two investments that adhere to where you can apply the formula for riches. In other words, where you can use the wealth creator strategy. And that is your own business in a very specific way. If you follow a specific method in doing that, in other words, you know at what level of the game that you're at. In other words, get the right information in the right order for the level of the game that you're at, and then you have to implement it. And then also you have to make sure that your investment growth rate will always be greater than your financial freedom growth rate in your business. And then the second investment that you can make that adheres to this will be your property. Property in a very specific way, because there's 18 ways to make money with property, but there's only one way to invest. In other words, you have to be able to determine the investment growth rate on the investment, the property investment that you're going to make, and that is going to give you the income. So in essence, what I'm trying to tell you is the only way to become financially free is to learn how to let your money work for you. And the only way that your money can work for you is to invest in income generating assets. That's all. And there's only two classes of income generating assets. Don't let anyone else fool you. And that is your own business and a property according to the Property Pro investment system. Now, some people will come to you and say, okay, but you can invest in stocks, and unless stocks is your business, like Warren Buffett or Soros, then it's a total different story. Or Dreyer, I think that is his name, Ray Dalio. Okay, that to there is their business. Okay, and they don't see that as an investment. So the investment, if you invest in Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, as an example, the growth that you'll get on that, if you're a normal average person, and I can prove that to you, by the way, and I've done it in several seminars, it is impossible for you as a normal person that starts off to become rich within a 10 to 15 years by investing in the best stock market stock there is. It is simply not possible unless you're already rich, and perhaps I'll talk about that to you at a later stage. I see Tony Robbins, this book, Money That He's Got, and you know, some of the gurus out there will teach you invest in index fund or tracker funds, and you save a lot of cost, and it's all bullshit, because you cannot become rich. There's only two ways to become rich in 10 years time, starting with nothing, and that is your own business or investing in property, the surplus that you've got. Right, and I think that was the little bit that I wanted to share with you today. So if you want to become financially free, check out your financial freedom growth rate. That's the first thing. Secondly, there's only two classes of investment I don't look at any class of investment. By the way, there's one class of investment that I did not check out, and that is what we call cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency only became into existence in 2008, and I'm busy doing a whole study just on cryptocurrency and the function from an investment point of view, as well as from a trading point of view. On a trading point of view, it makes sense. From an investment point of view, it's bullshit, because there's no intrinsic value in it. But it makes sense from a way to trade. Plus, there's a lot of other benefits attached to that, especially in the times that we're in, and especially if you're in South Africa. Okay, that's just by the way, and maybe if you want to know more about that, I can perhaps give you the outcomes of what I'm busy with at a later stage. Okay, so the second thing is that there's only two classes of investment that you can really invest in, and then all you need to do is to be able to understand those two classes, how money works, and that includes cryptocurrencies. And then you need to have the right strategy or systems in order to be able to help you through these levels. And then last, you need to be able to execute. And if I can help you in the execution by guiding you, by being your mentor, and by being perhaps a coach, please feel free to subscribe to some of my courses, or contact me and say, to be honest, I need a mentor. How can we work out a plan that is going to guarantee my success? Right, so I'll give you feedback. I'm doing this recording. I'm only going to add the physical side, the heart rate story tomorrow. So you're going to receive this tomorrow, not today, on condition, well, I'll post it in any case. Right, so thanks for your time. If you've got any comments, if you've got any questions, if you think that I can help you with something, please feel free to leave me a comment. And also share it with your friends. Now, I'm not saying that you should share it with your friends. A lot of people are going to tell you this is a bigger bull dust nonsense that you've ever heard in your life, especially the learned people, the professors out there and the academics. One of the reasons why I did this was a professor attended one of my seminars, and he said to me, "Honest, you need to take this to the academia so that they can change their attitude, because what they are teaching is not working from the financial point of view." And I thought that it would change their mindsets, and you don't change a mindset that is set in stone. So they will stay poor, unfortunately, for the rest of their lives. Right, so with that, I'll see you then tomorrow.